Hello, Warhammer fans. This is not the Parrot of Doom, but the Parrot of Tzeentch. I have come as the vanguard of the Tzeentchian army to survey all that Khorne has done in the name of chaos, and it is not good enough. So we are intervening, myself and Andy, on the Andy and Rem show. Caw! It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and everything else that is cool. We're talking about Warhammer fantasy. It's easy to love the rules. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home.
It certainly is, ladies and gentlemen, the Andy and Rem Show, episode number 77. And for the first time in quite a while, we have got a particular type of content. It may just be Mr. Remington's favourite type of content that we're going to bring you very, very shortly. Very, very exciting, because the drought is pretty much over for all us Age of Sigmar lovers out there.
Why is that, Andy?
Well, that's because the Tzaangors are in town.
Oh, they are they? Does that mean their beastly masters are also in town?
It certainly does. So let's have a look who we've got in the audience tonight. In a packed house, as always, we have on the Fabled active users list the likes of Andrew Fairbanks, Andy G0027, Demon _Lizard _from _outer _space, Gloomed Ready Gaming, Graham Rigg, John Brendan Markham, Josh Joyce, Master Dwalin, Mickey Jenver, Ruhark, and there are a few people in there earlier. Skeleton Flower was there, Graham Rigg, Brendan Duffy, Paul Bentley. People just chilling. Oh, there's Dreaming Cyborg and Tabletop Minions as well. So packed as always tonight.
It's always nice to see new names as well. So Ruhark and Josh Joyce. Welcome, welcome.
It is. Now, the barrel that we were scraping out, and we had an inkling that there was going to be a new juicy barrel of goodness last week, and we had our first kind of spoonful from the new barrel. So no more scraping, and we've actually sunk really deep into the barrel this week, and we've got just a huge meaty portion in our hands, which we're going to be serving up, just piping hot, steaming to all the audience very shortly.
Offer that up to the changeling himself.
We will.
Herself? Who knows? The changeling could be female.
It's possible that we're going to start sprouting feathers during this episode. You got anything to say about that?
Yeah. Well, are you a fan of Tzeentch? Do you have a Tzeentch army, Andy?
I don't have a Tzeentch army. I do quite like Tzeentch, though. It's one of the more interesting chaos gods as far as I'm concerned.
I think he's probably the most resourceful of the chaos gods, and the one most likely to survive if all of them were kind of besieged on all sides. You can imagine Tzeentch would be the tricksy one that somehow got away. It's like an ex-girlfriend.
And everyone must be bored with Khorne and Nurgle by now. We've had absolutely nothing but those two particular gods for a really long time now, haven't we?
Especially Khorne, you know, because it's kind of just a charge army, isn't it?
Maybe they run out of names that they could give all the units with blood and skull in there. They've just run out of variations they can use now, so they've had to move on to Tzeentch.
Yeah. I mean, they just, I don't know. None of the chaos armies seem to be like missile-y armies, really, do they? Not really. They're all sort of magic-y charge and buff kind of armies, right? Listening. I could tell Andy's not listening face
I'm totally listening. In the comments, Tabletop Minion says he'll never be bored of Papa Nurgle. I don't know if Nurgle have used up all their naming possibilities for their units yet. They've got putrid. They've got units with putrid in there. They don't have like pustule warriors, do they?
No, and they could have like underwater Nurgle beasts called Schnurglings.
Schnurglings.
Yeah, they're kind of Nurglings, but more like tadpoles. And they kind of grow into like bigger slime maggots.
Sounds a bit Dutch, if you ask me. Now, before we actually look at any of this stuff, there is something that's even more exciting than anything Age of Sigmar related. And when I show you, I'm sure you'll be in 100% agreement. And that is... Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, it's finally, it's in your hands.
I finally hold right here my cheeks.
What is
which I will now part for you.
Wow.
Look at that. There's the rules, and there's a couple of particular cards that I'm going to just dig in here for. I'm not going to go through the entire deck, obviously, but of course this has been a long time coming now.
So if you didn't know, viewers, this is the game that Andy designed. It's called Cheeks. It's a card game, isn't it?
Yes, and you have sampled my cheeks, haven't you?
I did. We had lots of fun playing that. And it's up to 4 players, am I right? Or is it 2 players?
At the moment, it's up to 8 players.
Wow.
Now, check out these. Look at that.
Oh, my God. Andy, the A-lister. Can't quite read the writing, but he's like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to focus on the writing, I think, because they're quite shiny here. And, of course, on the other side, we've got Rem the Rockstar.
Wow.
Look at that likeness.
That is a pretty good likeness.
Uncanny, I think you'll agree.
That's amazing, man. Wow, I want a poster of that. That's so cool. These are like special character cards then?
Yes, they were special. They weren't originally in there, but one of the Kickstarter backers actually specially requested that these characters be in there.
That's so
because someone loves us that much.
That's so cool, man.
It is.
That's one step short of having yourself as a kind of a plastic miniature.
It is, and this game is available for purchase now on the Word Forge Games website. I've put a link in the description. It's very reasonably priced, and that's available to order, but all the Kickstarter backers copies are currently making their way to the backers, apart from any that were going to be signed by me, because I just received those today. So I'm going to have to post those out again, obviously. So there's a slight delay for me having to manually sign them and then send those on. But everyone should have their hands firmly around my cheeks very, very shortly.
And may I say, Andy, it makes a wonderful New Year's gift.
It does. And there's an even greater surprise here. Hold on. Zoop. Look at this. There it is. There is Andy the A-lister, immortalised in T-shirt form.
Of course, if you didn't know Andy, maybe 6 months ago, he had very long hair, just like that hamster.
Yes, this is what I would look like if I were to be more ingrained in the kind of celebrity circuits with a scarf and everything. Very stylish clothing.
And also, if you ate more than just cheese on toast.
Yes, to get the hamster-like physique, I would have to considerably change my diet, I think. I'd have to eat plenty of sunflower seeds, let's just say that.
That's so cool. And I found it really easy to pick up. And you know, I'm not like the best at reading rules or whatever, but
Really?
Yeah, you talked me through it in, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. And if I do recall, I may have won the first game we played.
You may well have done. It is an excellent family game, and I would say it probably plays best with around about 4 or 5 players, I think.
And the minimum age?
The minimum age? Well, let's go by what it says on the box here. It says recommended for 8+, but you can play it with younger children as well. The humour in there isn't the kind of humour that a child would necessarily pick up on. So even though you might think some of it's a little bit on the rude side, then it's still all right for children. You know how some of the cartoons slip in adult jokes that the kids don't get?
Yeah.
There's plenty of that in there. So fun for all the family.
Well done, Andy. God, you are like a professional games designer now.
As if my celebrity status wasn't already confirmed enough.
Exactly. That's amazing. Round of applause for Andy. Well
Yeah,
done.
I didn't want to become too much of a celebrity before the year ended, because it wasn't a very good year, 2016, was it, for the old celebrity deaths thing? There seemed to be a new one every 3 days or so.
Yeah.
So I can safely move into the upper echelons of celebrity now that we're onto a new year, which hopefully won't yield the same kind of death toll. Okay, so it's time to sink our fangs into some meaty Age of Sigmar goodness. So first of all, we're going to go through some official channels first of all. I'm going to look at the Warhammer community page here, Age of Sigmar community. Let's see what we think of this. So this is their 2016 top 5. And at number 5, they've got the Fire Slayers. How taken aback were you at the idea of the first Dwarden that we get in the mortal realms had this gold pressed into their flesh?
Well, I liked them, but I didn't buy any. But I did buy the novel, or well, it wasn't really one novel. It was like 4 or 5 stories in one small book. And I read the first story, and I didn't get past that. I don't know. I like proper dwarf lore, where they're like grumbling gits and they hold grudges and stuff like that. But of course, they're just fleshing out stuff at the minute. And the Fire Slayers are on this quest to find this Urgold that's like missing pieces of their god, and they think if they get them all back together, they can bring their god back. Is it Grungy?
The pronunciation varies from person to person, as is often the case with these things.
I think you have to say it while coughing at the same time.
Well, that should be quite easy for us. I think you coughed during that intro more than you've ever done, and I've got incredibly sore throat at the moment, so I'm going to have to take a few cough breaks now and then.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, I would say like that was a good release.
Yes.
A really good release. You had like Fire Slayers with shooty weapons, Fire Slayers with meaty weapons, Fire Slayers with multiple weapons, and a Fire Slayer on a magma droth.
They are very, very tasty indeed. Then we had the Extremist Chamber, which was the Stormcast Eternals mounted on mighty beasts, for example, the Dracoths and the Star Drake. Now, this is one that I'm definitely a big fan of, since I've got a few Dracoth riders myself, and they've done very nicely for me in the games. And prior to this, all the Stormcast were pretty standard. They were all just on foot, all of the models virtually the same size, apart from wings. So it was nice to see them mounted on gigantic beasties. Because we did wonder, didn't we, when the starter box came out and one of them was mounted on a Dracoth, and then there weren't any others available for quite a few months.
Yeah, it's kind of like an elite part of the faction, isn't it?
Yes, it adds a lot of flavour to the Stormcast, I think, because just having all that gold can get a little bit boring. But when you've got them on these giant, usually more colourful beasties, then that's always a nice touch, I think.
Of course, got Star Drake dragon in there, haven't they?
Yes, which I don't own yet, but maybe one of these days soon, unless the Dwarden come along and sap all my financial resources. Next up, the Warg descends. Of course, we saw the Iron Jaws with this big, giant, intergalactic cabbage that they ride around on.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. I got the Wardak. Is it called a Wardak priest?
Wardak was Gruggle Prophets. I think you got the name of it wrong on a battle report, I think, didn't you?
Oh, probably. But yeah, he's the guy with loads of smoke coming out of his staff. He was pretty cool, but I use him in my Savage Auric army.
Yeah, you're more of a bone splitter than an Iron Jaw, aren't you?
I like flesh rather than rusty tin cans and rusty trombones.
Remington is a pursuer of the flesh, definitely.
But I like that model. If I was going to get an Iron Jaws model, it'd be that one.
You could always get that and put more of a naked orc on its back.
Yeah, riding bareback on a giant beast.
Oh, there's the old bone splitters. That's your cup of tea, isn't it? Plenty of exposed flesh.
These were wicked, these were. until the Warhammer did its first live television sort of broadcast of a competition in which a bone splitter army won, and basically the guy just nerfed a load of bone splitter archers because they're really good and they can fire twice. So he ended up having like 120 shots or something per round.
It was quite obscene. There were a few lists brought to light by those broadcasts that probably ruined several friendships by now.
Yeah, well, I thought the guy was actually pretty sound, geezer, to be fair. But whenever I make an army, I like to make kind of a balanced one. You know, I like the fluffy creatures. I've got the guys on the boars. You know, I've got a few guys with bows, a few guys with the normal weapons. You know, I like a bit of everything in my army.
And of course, the Beastclaw Raiders as well. We should count as part of that, as part of the overall Destruction Alliance.
Yeah, these are great.
And you've got a nice ogre army, of course.
Yeah, I've got a bit of everything in my ogre army, to be fair. So
ogres.
Yeah, I didn't take the plunge with these because I felt like I'd got them. Maybe I could have bought the book, maybe, but I don't know. By this time, when of Age of Sigmar's release schedule, I was getting a bit like miffed because, of course, I'd just finished a bunch of armies on square bases, and now suddenly everything was round bases, and you know, all my ogres looked a bit kind of earthy. Now suddenly that was out of style, and they need to be more snowy. So I don't know. You know, if you're just starting out, these were brilliant.
And there was a bit of a trend when these books first started coming out of people not feeling it was necessary to own them because you could already get all the war scrolls for free, and the various battalions maybe weren't that important, or you could just figure out what they were, maybe download the page and just have that. But they are starting to fill them out a bit more with the kind of the unique spells and various abilities that you get in the books now.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you're a Warhammer Fantasy fan, it's kind of like a mixture between ogres, yetis, and Kislev mixed together in the Ice Age.
And how could that be a bad thing? Next, there's the Season of Life, which of course means giant beetles.
Now, is this number one? Is this like
this isn't number one? This is number two.
Is this the second most successful, or just what is it? Is it in rank order?
I don't know what they've ranked it by, but I would assume it's not on best selling, because
right.
I'm sure some of this stuff up here must have sold very well. I mean, look at all this.
L'Oreal model is listed as the best seller on the website.
Is it?
It is. I mean, she looks absolutely amazing.
It is a very, very tasty model, and some people that weren't necessarily into the whole tree hugger type army before may have taken the plunge just based on this giant triple fanged beetle monstrosity, or triple horn, should I say, because I think its face is actually underneath there.
I mean, it's interesting because her physique could be a little clue as to how elven models or wood elven models are going to look like. They look much more Amazonian warrior rather than sort of brittle and slender.
Now, apart from her, in the release that came with this, it was mostly trees, wasn't it? We had the likes of the old Kurnoth hunters, which are very, very tasty, of course, in the game.
And the spirit spites, or the tree spites, kind of...
The tree revenants, they called?
Yeah, kind of man melded into tree. So
yes.
Tree huggers.
I'm sure you've maybe been to a few events over the years where man has melded into tree.
Yeah, back in my college days, for sure.
Yeah, we're going back a few decades there.
Get lost.
Right, so the Chaos Pantheon in Flux came in at number one. So they're considering the Silver Tower as the number one moment for Age of Sigmar. I wouldn't subscribe to that theory, but of course it did throw an awful lot of cats amongst the pigeons and gave us a glimpse of what's to come, possibly for a lot of the armies, especially Tzeentch, which is now coming to fruition now. But you've also got some of the others in there, like the old Scutlings, which perhaps hint at what goblins may become in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got sort of Tzeentch mixed with Beastmen. So maybe we're not going to see Beastmen anymore, but we've got sort of you've got Bestigors mixed with Tzeentch to be their elite warriors, and you've got a Minotaur that's turned all blue, and now it's called an Ogre Thaumaturge, which is a weird name. Maybe it has some historical reference. I'm not sure. So it's like these new Age of Sigmar armies. They're kind of putting old factions together with a little bit of a twist.
Well, we've got some comments here. Paul Bentley says Silver Tower is brilliant in all caps. Well, we had a game of it and we enjoyed it thoroughly. I haven't played it since, though.
I did a campaign with my Warhammer group of young'uns, and we eventually moved on to the Khorne fighting pit game because it was a bit more immediate than this. But this is more of like a family fun, I guess. This one, but it's going to take you a long time to paint all those models. I tell you that you get a fantastic amount of figures in there.
They're incredibly detailed as well. All the miniatures in this.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on? Because also in the Warhammer community, they've given us a bit of a sneak preview of all the miniatures in high quality pictures here. So the Tzaangor Shaman atop the disc, and because of this new technology they've innovated, which is everything has something dangling off it attached to the base so it can float. So no more flying stands by the looks of it.
Yeah, that's great.
What do you think of this beastie?
Let's do us close up, Andy.
Well, let's zoom right in on the page, shall we? There we go. How about that?
What do I think? Well, it looks a little bit like a Skaven kind of head. That's just his helmet, I guess. I mean, it must be pretty difficult to put a helmet on when you've got those big horns sticking out. So he's done well there. What do I think? Yeah, I can see why people would love that. I mean, I like my Beastmen more kind of fleshy and rural, let's say.
Do you like the fact that he has this little dagger in his hand, or would you like it to be perhaps him holding his like a palm up with a flame in it?
Yeah, I think the flame would be better. That would round it off a bit nicer for me. But you can always convert that, couldn't you?
You could certainly try. It's a nice staff there. What I'm immediately thinking when I look at it is, if I was painting it, I would have a lot of fun painting like the horns and the staff, and then when I get to this bit of flesh here, that's when I would personally start to struggle, I think, because you have quite a lot of smoothness on the skin there, which is not my strong suit, painting large, smooth surfaces.
Well, what I'd recommend, Andy, is that you watch my Paint Like a Pro video on the Remington Steel Warhammer channel, in which I actually paint a Ogre Thaumaturge flesh. In fact, I don't even paint it, I dust it.
Would you say that your technique is superior to even Duncan's?
Yeah, I would. I would, because no base coat is required.
That is a bold, bold claim.
But yes. So, there's another one.
Yes. Now, this is Tzaangor Enlightened, which looks very, very similar, but he has kind of a double-ended weapon. Although this end looks a bit more impressive, that's just more of a little hook. And then he's got these guys down here. I don't know if the other guy had them floating around him. Now,
no, I like this one better. I like him. He looks like he's like fishing. You know? He's like fishing.
He does actually. He looks like he's out rowing on a little boat, doesn't he? And those are the fish. Yeah, it's quite funny. Also, you get the vibe of kind of like gladiators, you know, from TV, where they would stand on platforms with the big sticks.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I'm getting from it. Then we've got Tzaangor with Brayhorn.
Now, the most immediately striking thing about these models is that the Beastmen were always supposed to be a bit thick. You know what I mean? And a bit like, you know, they wouldn't have these sort of elaborate weapons. So it's like there must have been some kind of like Einstein or like some, you know, Beastman character that just had a thunderbolt of intelligence and wisdom and took them into the space age. Because these guys used to be primitive.
Well, if anyone could do that with them, it would be Tzeentch, wouldn't it? And maybe it's just giving them bird heads. And as you know, birds are well known for having massive brains.
Yeah, but it didn't give them wings.
Really.
It gave them discs instead.
By the way, while we're going through this, Andrew Fairbanks has suggested anyone could give us their New Year's resolutions in the comments, and we'll get to those in a minute. And then we'll tell you ours as well. I'm sure Mr. Remington's got a few that he's probably broken already.
So this is all part of Tzaangor, yeah?
Yes. Let's go with that. This is the Kyric Acolyte here. This is the model that we were wonderfully modelling in this image here.
Now I think this is going to be the most popular one I do, because there's lots of uses for that bird there, that bird of prey. But if you look at his chest, he's not got like a 4-pack like me. He's got like a 10.
He's got the abdominal muscles there, and then he's got like 6 pectoral muscles going on.
It's like chicken breast, isn't it? 2 of them.
Yes, I'm not sure what's going on there. Very strange.
Yeah, I like him though.
A unique physique, certainly, and he's only wearing 1 shin pad. So if you're going to go after him, make sure you're kicking him in that leg.
Absolutely, and also I would probably paint him with some tattoos. I think that would look pretty.
Yeah, because there's a lot of flesh there, isn't there? What kind of tattoos would you put on a Tzeentchian follower?
I would do like paisley, sort of something curly.
Something curly.
Curly whirly, yeah.
Is that the lot? Yeah, that's everything they're giving us.
So these are the characters, and you got the Kyric Acolytes, and you got the Tzaangors as your kind of characters on foot, and then you've got the Beasties as the Ogre Thaumaturges. Am I right? Yeah.
Right. So I think it's time to move on to what is definitely your favourite thing ever. Anyone who's watched this show before will know what Remington's favourite topic is, and it is rules.
Oh, great. Well, just before you go into them, if January is Tzaangor, then what's February? Froguary?
Duardinary?
Duardinary. You're not going to get those Duardin now. I can't see it happening, pal.
Well, we'll see.
They've already done dwarves.
Okay, so these have been around for a couple of weeks now, and I'm sure you've been studying them in depth, Mr. Remington.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Tzeentch Arcanites, the Tzeentch Demons, and the Tzeentch Mortals each have their own unique command traits that you can get. Now, this table doesn't actually show all of them, by the looks of it, because it's just a leaked image that isn't giving you the full picture. So the Arch Sorcerer, just to give you a little taste here, you can generate 2 additional spells for your general from the Law of Fate. So you can get more spell casting action, and that's going to be a common theme you would imagine with the Arcanites. So look at this one here for an example. You can attempt to unbind enemy spells with your general that are cast within 27 inches instead of 18.
Right.
That's quite significant, isn't it? Because there are occasions when that 18 inches isn't enough to dispel anything.
Well,
especially early in the game when the 2 armies are quite far apart.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too fussed about that, because I'd be peppering the army with arrows anyway.
Well, if you think about it, your spellcasters are the ones that are going to be doing dispelling. And if you have them within 18 inches of the enemy, that can sometimes lead to their demise, especially with the possibility of the enemy getting 2 turns in a row. They can close that distance very rapidly on you.
Yeah.
And if they've got units that are dishing out mortal wounds, for instance, so even if your caster has a save, it's not really going to help him. So
no, we haven't
make them more survivable if you manage to get that ability there. Keep them further away, still unbind.
Mention the fate dice, Andy, because if you're a Tzeentch player, you get to roll, is it a 2d6 or something? I can't remember. You get to roll a bunch of dice, 9 dice, is it? And whatever the rolls is on those dice, you can replace at any time, any roll within the game.
Yes, I remember. They were going over that on their broadcast, weren't they?
That's major. You know, if you want to inflict extra damage on something, or do a saving throw, or make sure a spell goes through. I mean, that's pretty pivotal, isn't it? Really, but I guess that's fair enough, because I think your standard Tzeentch warriors seem a little bit kind of basic to me. So they kind of need something extra.
You would imagine that's what Tzeentch is all about, though, isn't it? If he's the master of fate, he should be able to manipulate the world around him. As you can see here on this example of this command trait, Nexus of Fate, where you can just roll a dice and then replace one of your destiny dice with however many you rolled. So you can get even more of those bad boys.
Wow.
So that's pretty tasty. They all seem to have the possibility of getting this here. And they're all pretty much the same, these.
I think people that are going to play against Tzeentch demon armies are going to pretty much try and snipe the magic casters, aren't they? It's going to be their first port of call.
You would imagine that would definitely be their priority.
Yeah, I think
these first three abilities are all the same for each one, and then the unique ones obviously haven't been released yet, but you can see the titles there. The mortals are the Blessing of Tzeentch. The Arcanites have Boundless Mutation. So we can only wildly speculate on what text might come underneath there.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be a buff, isn't it?
You would imagine it would be some bonus to their stats if he's grown an extra arm or something. Then we've got War Scrolls here. This is for the Tzaangor Shaman, who is on his disc. So let's see what makes him so special, shall we? Because we imagine it's not going to be this whole area here, because he's only a shaman, so his attacks aren't going to be that crazy. But it's not bad, actually, because the disc has D3 attacks, doing potentially D3 damage with each one, so that's not bad. His staff and his ritual dagger, so not having a flame in his hand does actually give him this extra little attack here, but it's not too crazy because he's a wizard, but he does move 16 inches, though. So that's pretty tasty. I imagine the serious potential cheese, though, of course, is going to be in his special abilities here. So let's have a look. Sorcerous Elixir. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can choose for a Tzaangor Shaman to drain the contents of its vial in order to augment its sorcerous might. On a turn in which you do so, you can attempt to cast a second spell with the Tzaangor Shaman. This can even be the same spell, and can choose to re-roll one or both of the dice when making your casting rolls. Well, that's pretty tasty, isn't it? Because when you're a spellcaster, of course, you have to get in range to cast, and as we were saying, once you get close to the enemy in Age of Sigmar, it's very difficult to defend yourself. So the ability to get in there and do even more casting in one go, which might be your only chance to do any major spell casting, and they're much more likely to go off with you re-rolling the dice as well. So that's pretty tasty indeed.
I think we're going to see, in competitive armies, more than one Tzeentch Shaman too.
I would agree with you there. Maybe not more than one specifically Tzaangor Shaman, but more than one caster, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, in the old Warhammer rules, you had the chance of miscasting a spell, didn't you? And it could kill you or wound you. You don't really have that anymore, do you?
No.
Mass Effect. Maybe there's a couple like that, but it doesn't seem to be any downside with these guys.
Well, let's have a look at the boon of mutation as well. So, the Tzaangor Shaman curses its foes with the dubious gift of Tzeentch's mutagenic power, transforming its victims into a form altogether more pleasing. Boons of Mutation has casting value of 7. Successfully cast, pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches. The unit you pick suffers D3 mortal wounds. For each model that is slain by the spell, set up a new Tzaangor model. If there's already a friendly unit of Tzaangor within 6 inches of the unit you picked, I would assume they join that unit, but it's cut off there. So that sounds pretty tasty as well, doesn't it? Of course, this is a unique spell for him, but he will have access to the Law of Fate or the Law of Change or whatever else they have in that book as well. So you can have quite a few spells to choose from here. Yeah. Depending on what you're up against, of course, this one would be more effective. With it doing D3 mortal wounds and it being dependent on how many models you kill, you're obviously going to want to target it at something Something with high armor, obviously, because you're doing mortal wounds, but single wounds each. So I'm thinking dwarves would be good targets for that particular spell.
Absolutely. If you've got 2 or 3 wizards successfully casting, can they cast the same spell?
I am not sure, because of course in matched play you've got the whole rule of 3 thing, haven't you, or rule of 1 or whatever it's called, where you can't cast the same spell twice. But then with this guy here, he's got this can even be the same spell that he could attempt to cast twice. So does that overrule that?
Probably. I think if any army was going to overrule that rule of 3, would be the Tzeentch army. So if you get that spell off 3 times, then you could. That's a unit of 9 Tzaangors potentially. Get that in a couple of turns.
We've had an interesting point raised in the chat here by Mr. Stu Gibson, who's just popped up and said, anyone else think that the impending Tzeentch release was what prompted GW to release the Lord Veritant for Stormcast, just to keep Sigmar's lads on an even keel? Yes, I would definitely say so. If Magic is going to become a huge offensive potential beast like it is with the Tzeentch, clearly, then putting in that anti-magic dude in the Stormcast Eternals army can't be a coincidence with the timing. Now, we've also got this guy, or Tzaangor Skyfires, which are also on discs, but these are kind of your melee troops on discs. So, or not necessarily, because they do have great bows, actually. So, it doesn't seem that incredible, their actual bow, though, so I'm going to assume that their special rules are good, because just looking at this, it doesn't look that exciting. The Great Bow's Arrow of Fate looks pretty good, but again, it's not amazing. The Vicious Beak. You gotta love when they give an amazing name to a particular body part. Vicious Beak. 4+5+2. It's not that vicious, is it, really?
It's like a Kurnoth Hunter on a disc.
Well, we're going to have a look at their special rules to see if they stack up to that particular claim, because the rules here don't look that amazing. You've got D3 damage on that arrow, but the regular bow is only doing 1, and most of the time they're not even going to hit looking at that. So let's just have a look what they can actually do. If I can read this, because it's quite blurry here. So, Guided by the Future is one of their abilities. In the combat phase, you can reroll all failed hit and wound rolls for a unit of Tzaangor Skyfires if no enemy unit within 3 inches of them have attacked yet in that phase. Right, and since you're moved 16 inches, chances are you're going to be the one who's choosing to put yourself into combat, so you could decide to attack with them first.
These are real character snipers. You could, because look, it says has 3 or more models, so 3 models shooting at an enemy hero could kill it or severely wound it, and then they go in and I don't know if can they shoot and attack in the same turn. They
would certainly be able to shoot and then charge if they wish.
Look at their attacks altogether. They've got guaranteed 3 attacks plus D3. So that's pretty devastating, I think.
Well, let's keep going and see if they've got anything else that's particularly tasty. Judgment from afar. To be struck by an arrow of fate is to be judged by destiny itself. Those found wanting are all but doomed. If the hit roll for a great bow's arrow of fate is 6 or more, the attack sequence ends and the target immediately suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, pretty tasty. And this is quite difficult to read here because of the old blurriness on the picture, but it looks like preternatural enhancement, it looks like. If the unit is within 9 inches of a friendly Tzaangor Shaman at the start of the shooting phase, add 1 to any hit rolls made for their Great Bow's Arrow of Fate attacks.
Wow.
Okay, then. So that's where you're going to be getting that 6 or more coming in, isn't it? Because you can add 1 to the hit rolls if they're near a Shaman, which they are going to be because you're going to be having multiple Shamans if you're Remington. That was your immediate strategy, wasn't it?
This is huge, Andy. I mean, this could... I've talked about a character sniper, but this is now a monster character sniper.
We also want to know how many of these great bows you can actually have, so let's have a look, shall we? So, with their great bows from afar, but will readily savage their foes with their vicious beaks and club them with their great bows. The Aviarch or Aviarch has a hit characteristic of 3+ instead of 4+ when using a great bow's arrow of fate. So it looks like it's just him that has the arrow of fate, which would make sense. So you'd be hitting on a 3+ with it then. And if you're near the Tzaangor Shaman, then you're hitting on a 2+ with it, wounding on a 3+.
That's mental.
But of course, you've got a pretty good chance of generating the hit on a 6 or more then, with this guy, adding that to it. So, yeah, that's pretty tasty.
Is he as good? Are they as good as those Stormcast arrow guys?
That is a tough one. The fact that they move 16 inches, so you can just zip them around, arguably yes, but I think the Stormcast, the magic arrow that they have, I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah.
The extra fancy, the shock bow thing.
Yeah.
The fancy bow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is probably carries the entire unit of the Judicators for the Stormcast.
Yeah, these guys are wicked, man. Do you have to buy them separately, or do they come as a 3?
I'm not sure whether that information is available yet.
I think it's going to be a 3, isn't it? So these are like the cavalry, aren't they? Almost like a missile cavalry.
Pretty much, but faster than your average cavalry. 4 wounds each as well is pretty tasty.
Yeah, I mean, you imagine you could have a force just of these guys, right? With no foot guys at all. You could have a whole disc army. That'd be kind of cool. Surfer army.
You could. So that's the end of the War Scroll analysis for this week. And I'm sure we'll have more in the coming weeks, though. Because as you know, this show was, of course, built on our in-depth tactical analysis of the rules and the War Scrolls. Mr. Remington made his name as a bit of a tactical guru in the community back in the day. And you'll be hoping to live up to that name once again, now that the releases are coming thick and fast, hopefully.
That's right. I mean, it begs the question, Andy, what comes next? What's after Tzeentch?
Well, surely it's got to be the Dwarden.
No way.
The Dwarden have appeared in so many pictures. That Tzeentch picture had a gyrocopter flying around in the background. It had some iron breakers.
No, I'll tell you what it'll be. I reckon they're going to mix Slaanesh with Dark Elves, and it's going to be a Slaelves.
Slaelves.
Sort of tentacle, naked, elfish. It's going to be like walking down Soho in the 70s.
Tentacle, naked, elvish. So are you sure this is your suggestion for the next release? It's not just your browsing history?
Oh, how can you tarnish my reputation, Andy? A law-abiding citizen. I don't know. The rumours you spread. That's my prediction.
I don't think it can take that much more tarnishing, to be honest.
It's not going to be dwarves. It's going to be something elfish, and it's always something chaosy. So it's going to be Slaelves. Yeah.
Right. Before we move on to your favourite segment of the show, shall we look at some people's New Year's resolutions from the comments here? So, Mr. Tabletop Minions, I plan to paint more in the new year. That's always a good one. Skeleton Flower says, paint more, get my ogre army painted, do more Skelevision. Yes, Skelevision is, of course, it's not quite on a par with this show, but it's creeping up there slowly.
Naughty, Andy. That's not very nice.
Well, no one can just start off. You can't just enter the arena of YouTube and immediately be on a par with a show that's been around for 77 solid gold episodes.
77? Bloody hell, 77. Imagine if we got if it was like a proper TV show and we got paid per episode, we'd be like millionaires now, wouldn't we?
I think Wargaming would have to have a significant upturn in mainstream popularity in order for us to get that.
Warhammer version of Top Gear.
Warhammer TV really should be hiring us to have a more, how would you describe our output compared to theirs? We're more hip, I would say.
Well, I think they've definitely taken a bit of what we do.
I think they try to.
I don't know. What I've tried to do is get back on the painting horse, and I've just Facebook messaged you 2 of the units I'm working on. That's my New Year painting resolution for you. If you can maybe show that to our audience. So I've basically spent about 2 months not painting any miniatures. I blame Total Warhammer for that, but I've had a great time. So yeah, I've painted a Chaos, not a Slaughter Priest. It's the Exalted Deathbringer, I think his name is.
Well,
and
I'm going to take those pictures you just sent me, and I'm going to add them to our selection of images that we're going to look at the end of the show.
Lovely.
From the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what else we've got here. Some more New Year's resolutions. Joneziani says, finish off my Stormcast army and continue with my Death army. Then we've got Brendan Duffy, finish painting an army. Yeah, finishing an army is always a difficult thing. I think you know all about that, don't you, Mr. Remington? Over the years, you've had numerous barely started armies, and some of them half done, a few mostly done. Have you ever had a completely 100% finished army that you can just put away in a drawer?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I did make... well, the problem with me is I like sweet shopping. So, you know, it's like pick and mix with me. You start working on one unit, you do a couple of great models, and then your head gets turned, and then you start painting something else. So you've got little bits and bobs of lots of different things. And what I did I had my mind fixed on the Savage Orcs, and I just put all the other models away and just put the Savage Orcs out. So that's all I could see. So I didn't get my head turned. And I managed to do a decent Age of Sigmar force, but it's still not competitive enough. I need 20 Arrow guys instead of 10. I need maybe 20 Savage Boar Boys instead of 10. So
that's always been the way, though, hasn't it? In any game, really, it's like in 8th edition when I got all my new dwarves, painted up my 20 hammerers, and then realised actually no one takes 20 hammerers. You need 40.
Absolutely, and same with something like Dark Elves and Executioners. You could paint wonderful 10, a unit of 10, and then you think, well, 10's not enough. I need 20, and that goes with every kind of unit. So that was the biggest problem with Warhammer, actually. Just the mammoth painting schedule just to complete one army. Well, yeah, good luck to you, my friend. I hope you get to. My advice to you is just focus on one and do it if you want to see quicker, more satisfying results. Otherwise you'll be like Remington and have cupboards full of half-painted armies.
Well, is your resolution to kind of stick to one army then, did you say?
No, because after playing Warhammer Total War, I've just got into so many different armies. I'm back to sweet shopping again. I'm sorry. So I painted a Ghoul, I painted a Sister of Thorn, and I painted this Chaos guy. So, I don't know, it makes me happy painting characters.
I think if I'm going to have a wargaming New Year's resolution, it's probably going to be to have more painting consistency, I would say, because I usually go completely nuts and paint non-stop for about 2 weeks and get a load of stuff done, and then get completely burned out and don't paint anything for about a month, and then start again, and it just goes in that cycle. I would rather just do a bit of painting each week and get it done at the same rate, but always be painting something. I think that's healthier, I think.
Now, from New Year's resolutions to confessions, Andy, do you have a nerd confession?
Let's see if I can look around at anything that would qualify as a nerd confession in here.
Just look in the mirror. Well, I would say I've just got the biggest confession to make. It could have been career-threatening.
Have you?
Confession, yeah. Basically, the guys in my band found the Remington Steel YouTube channel.
Oh my.
Yeah, no. I know.
And
they laughed for a bit, and they just said, yeah, no, I don't care. So it was kind of like, because I don't care, it's like, well, it kind of blew over a bit. think they think it's pretty cool. They've just like seen 2 or 3, 4 years worth of work with all these amazing models and painting, endeavors. I just think they've opened a Pandora's box of stuff about me.
So were they not aware at all that you were into any of that crazy nerd stuff?
Well, they found out that I had an alter ego called Remington Steele. And one of them just got a bit too curious and typed it in. Because I did let slip that I had a YouTube channel, but I didn't tell them the name, but they put the two together. So they've been doing screen shares to each other of my various videos, which has been fun. So yeah, my alter ego is out.
Well, I hope if they're going to get into wargaming, they're not going to be taking any tactical advice from your channel.
Why? Why not? I've got a great Sigmar record. I'm sure I've beaten you more times than I've lost.
I don't know how true that is.
I've only lost when you bend the rules,
Or play by the rules, as it generally is. It's only 4 pages. You should probably read them at some point.
Yeah. Well, maybe they should make an audio book, $1 million idea.
An audio book of a 4-page rule set.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Do it on the YouTube thing. It's probably going to get done now, I've said that. But yeah, just eloquently read out the 4 pages of rules, stick it on the YouTube channel with some, music with some gravitas, and some pictures. Bam.
Well, it's safe to say you probably haven't been working on anything the last couple of weeks because you've been too busy with Total War. But I've actually been working on some things since Christmas with some of the presents I got. I've been working on my Citadel woods.
I didn't know you got some woods.
Yep, I've got the trees all assembled here.
Okay, so are you going for a dead wood or are you going for...
Well, I'm not going to put the leaves on, but I haven't decided what theme I'm going for yet. I was playing with the idea of maybe putting snow on it because I've got a snow mat.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure yet.
Well, it would work for your undead, wouldn't it? The undead vibe of your army.
And I've also been putting this together.
Yeah, now I saw you put a photo up saying how hard it is to glue together.
Yes, I mean, if you just look at the corners here, you can see there are distinct gaps everywhere. And this thing is just in too many pieces. These pillars in the corners here should not come in 4 different sections. It's a little bit ridiculous.
I thought that would just come in 3 bits, right? The front.
Well, you would think. It doesn't look like it's that complicated, but it is. So I've had to milliput all the crevices and then kind of scrape most of it out again, so it's not going to be too much of an eyesore. But,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I have to admit, this was actually my favourite bit of scenery they did at one time.
It is a nice looking one, but it's also the most hassle to put together. The realm gates were really, really easy. No issues whatsoever. The Dragon Fate dais was pretty standard as well. But this...
You just got a Duff one? Or are they all like that?
No, everyone has reported similar issues with this. It's just because there are several pieces that all kind of interlock at the same point, and they're not perfectly straight. So, yeah, they meet at the top and they meet at the bottom, but then there's a gap in the middle there.
The simple answer to that would have to have one of those dragon statues on the corner bit covering up the gap.
To me, it just seems poorly planned. I think they could have put it together in such a way that it wouldn't require that many pieces.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I'm sure they know better. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? But what the hell is that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just prep the people first. Okay, I have zoomed in heavily on one piece of a miniature. In this instance, it's a bone. If you can tell us where this bone is from, which currently available miniature in the Age of Sigmar range this bone is from, then your name will go on the list of potential prize winners when we next have a prize to give away. So, Mr. Remington, would you like to give us the theme tune for What the Hell Is That while I crack open the screen share?
What the hell is that? What What the hell is that? 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 Only Andy and Remington know.
Well, folks, there you go. What the hell is that? It's clearly a bone. But what is it from?
It's not Bone Ripper, is it?
It's not. Now, I would imagine that it's not going to take too long for someone to get this, since it is only one miniature this week. Usually there are multiples, but while we're waiting for the guesses to come in, let's have a look at the old comments. So, Mr. Tabletop Minions says his archway is hot garbage as well. Huge gaps. So yes, the Ophidian archway, gaps galore. So if you're thinking of buying one of them, make sure you've got some kind of filler or putty on hand.
Well, Andres Goodmanson says it's made like that, so you can put it together in different ways.
I don't know about that.
Well, in what other ways could you do it? Maybe just one flat wall?
I don't know whether you could actually do that.
Or I did see people interlocking it with the other Age of Sigmar scenery bits. So I think it's meant to fit onto the Dragon Fate Dias thing.
I don't know. Overall, I think it could have been done better.
Right.
We've got some guesses. We have from Stu Gibson says Crypt Horror. Nope, that's wrong, but I can see where you're thinking is going with that one, because the Crypt Horror holding a bone is very similar to this. Let's see. Andreas Goodmanson, Savage Auric Musician. Nope.
Bone Giant?
Nope. Josh Joyce says Auric Shaman. Nope. Fluffy Dread says the Grot Shaman. Nope. No one's got it yet. The Dreaming Cyborg says, is it the bone from a war chanter? No, it's not. It's something, probably something you wouldn't expect. Not the first thing that comes to mind, certainly. It's not a particularly common miniature, but it is available on the GW website. Let's see. Anything else? Hooves of Doom, Ghoul Bone. Nope, it's not from a ghoul. I'm going to narrow it down now and tell you that it's in the Destruction Grand Alliance. So there's nothing undead about it.
Oh, gotta be Savage Oryx, surely.
Well, it may have an element of green in there somewhere. It's a bit of a clue. Dun, 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 dun. The tension, the suspense. Miznosis says it's from a Stormcast Eternal that had his armor removed. No, it's not. Let's see. Dreaming Cyborg says River Troll. Nope. Andreas Goodmanson, Sour Breath Troggoth. Nope. Brendan Duffy, Goblin Shaman. Nope. Dreddy says Napoleon Bone Apart. As much as I would like to give you the win for that one, nope. Ruhark Noblar Champ. Nope.
Oh, maybe it's Ogres then. Oh, the silence of Andy revealed.
It's not. It's something that's green-skinned.
Oh.
I can tell you, though, that it's not a Savage Auric. Josh Joyce says a Ragnarok's back catapult. Nope. Stu Gibson says Goblin Big Boss with the bone through his hair. Nope. I'll tell you right now, this is something that is holding the bone. The bone is being brandished as a weapon, and it is by a green skin.
Wow. Maybe it's an extreme close-up then.
Fluffy Dread says Ogre Firebelly. Nope. Andreas Goodmanson. Okay, we have a winner. Andreas Goodmanson says Snotlings. That's right. This bone is from... Now, where have I put the solution here? I'll stop the screen share so I don't show anything else prematurely here.
That's pretty clever, Andy. You're a smart fellow, aren't you?
I certainly am.
You've done an IQ test?
Not lately.
No.
Right, here we go. There, look at that. As you can see, it was the bone from the snotling.
Wow. I miss snotlings, I do. They're great. I've got 2 snotling pump wagons, I have.
So Andreas Goodmanson goes onto the potential prize winners list.
Loved it. And do you know, while we were talking through those answers, someone inspired me for another $1 million idea. Whoa, wow, what's that, Andy? That's amazing.
Nope, we're not looking at that yet.
I've just seen it. Yeah, so you've got Stormcast Eternals, but we could bring out a line of Stormcast females, kind of like matriarchs, called Stormcast Maternals. The maternal extremists.
Stormcast Maternals, the maternal extremists. Okay, folks, judge whether that's $1 million idea or not. Put in the comments an amount, preferably in dollars, so we can see whether it's more or less than $1 million. How much do you think that idea is worth? The Stormcast Maternals.
Yep, a whole new design of breastplates. Be fantastic. Stormcast Maternal. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, that?
Dreddy says the Maternity Wardens.
Yeah, that's great. What's it called? Someone that helps you have a baby?
Midwife.
A midwife. Something to do with midwife.
There's got to be an Age of Sigmar related midwife joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's one for the comments.
Yeah, we tried to, right? It doesn't work.
Voladium says it's worth $999,999. So not quite $1 million idea. Slightly off. I think it's time to look at some amazing pictures and miniatures that people have painted and posted on our Facebook group.
Oh,
please. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's have a look. This is
okay, here we go. So, first of all, we have from Benjamin Hopkins. Let's zoom out a bit so we can actually see it. These are some Stormcast Eternals, but with a twist, because as you can see, they've got heads. Visible heads. And I really like the colour of this bird, actually. Very, very vibrant, isn't it? With the red.
I don't know if it goes so well with the blue. It is very vibrant. Maybe, I don't know, it's actually the really well painted individually that just needs something to blend in with the blue and the gold on the green. I'm not sure whether, maybe a little bit of purple in there would do that. I don't know.
What do you think of the heads?
Oh, right. Are they from Marauders? They look like Marauder heads, Chaos Marauder heads.
They could well be.
I love the one with the bow and arrow. He looks like he belongs like that. He looks like, wow, he looks like the vulture from Spider-Man, doesn't he? Yeah.
I think my favourite thing from this image, though, is the lightning on this hammer.
Yeah, that's mega.
You don't spot it at first, but it is quite incredible looking. And then there's a bit more going on this arrowhead here, but obviously it's not as large a surface. Very, very nice indeed.
Yeah, definitely more than meets the eye with those.
Next, this is from Kevin Wiedeck, and this is, of course, a mighty Dracoth that's red in colour. I'm not sure I've seen a red one before.
Nah. I do like the base. Quite a lot.
There's quite a lot going on that base there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting choice of colour scheme. It looks like orange or yellowish highlights on it there.
Yeah, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of looks a bit corny, doesn't it? Like, as in the god corn.
I could see that.
Just personally, I think instead of gold armor, maybe silver armor might have silver and dark silver.
You think silver would go better with red?
Yeah, in this case, yeah. Less chaosy, maybe. Yeah, it's just, what do I know? You know what I mean?
Also, he needs a shield.
Does he need one? Well, how's he going to wield a double-handed axe like that with one hand? And take his arm?
He does have the option for a shield, but in the starter set, you just don't get a shield. So you need to get a box of Dracoths and get a spare shield for him.
Sean Blake just says, the midwife devoted. Dreaming Cyborg says Eternal Midwives. Eternal Midwives.
Next, this is from Sam Jones. And look at the ethereal goodness going on here.
That's a brilliant paint job. That's so clean, isn't it?
That is very, very professional looking.
See, the great thing about this model is, from a distance, you think, oh, she was probably quite pretty. Do you know what I mean? She's probably like a really beautiful Empire maiden at one point. And then you do a zoom in, and yeah, she looks not so alluring.
I really like the way the green gets a bit stronger on the hand here. Like there's something a bit more material about the fingers. Like she can actually reach out and touch you despite being a ghost. Now we've got another one from Sam Jones here. Now, look at this. There's a lot going on here. This is I can't even remember what they're called now. Those undead, the Morgaths, is it? Something like that. A lot of skulls. There's a lot of very, very kind of pale colours going on here, isn't there? It's interesting. It's almost quite like a Tyranid from 40k kind of colour scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of purple going on as well.
I'd like to see the whole model from afar. It's good. Interesting use of bone colour there.
There's a lot of bone going on, but it's
bone, isn't it?
A variation in the bone with the skulls.
That's really interesting. I love the skulls.
I'm not sure if they're actually finished yet, these.
Okay.
Because if you look, like the shoulder has the bone in that particular style, and then this bit down here, it looks like it's going to end up like that when it's finished. So I'm going to assume they're not quite finished yet. So we'll have to have another look at them when they're done. But I'm assuming they're going to all the bones will end up like this.
Andres Goodmanson also says the Stormcast Sororitas. That's a mouthful of Latin for you, isn't it? What about the Stormcast Senoritas? They can be like Mexican bandits.
Stormcast Mexican bandits.
Just giving away these $1 million ideas. Right, this is why I ain't seen this one for a while.
This is Holy Backyard Prophet. I'm going to assume that is their real name as well. And look at this. Who needs a face when you've got chainmail?
That pony looks like it's really been suffering.
It looks like it's definitely on its last legs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you were carrying around some kind of, I'm assuming this is Nurgle because it's got the Nurgle symbol on its chest there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be festering and rotting away, haven't you? And you know what horses are like at the best of times? They have kind of fragile legs, don't they?
It smells real bad.
So once you start festering and rotting away, you imagine it's going to be quite difficult for this thing to walk.
Yeah.
Probably not got the most fun life, a horse that's half decomposed. Next. This is Mickey Genver, who has painted a tree.
Right, that's a Nurgly tree. Look at the slime at the bottom.
Now, I'm assuming that this is the base for something, but I don't know what is actually going on it yet, so maybe she can let us know.
Well, Mickey Genver's her expertise is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, she kind of sailed under the radar for a while. We didn't realise that she was just this ultimate painting beast, did we?
No.
And it's not just painting, it's the effects, this kind of slime down here.
Yeah.
It's just expertly done all round, isn't it?
Definitely. I think, Mickey, you've got to do some painting tutorials or just some painting chat. It'd be really cool, you know?
Hooves of Doom says it's for a blight drone.
Right, okay. Blight drone? Do you mean plague drone?
I don't know if there's a difference.
Right.
There might be.
Yeah, that's just phenomenal.
Very, very tasty. And...
Well, now they're...
Now, what amateurish painter could have done this?
Someone who's stuck with a load of square and rectangle bases with their whole army.
Yes, would you like to talk us through what you've been doing here?
Yeah, so after playing the Wood Elf campaign and loving it on Total War, I brought out my Wood Elves and I put them into two piles, if you like. The ones that I really like and the ones that I want to sell or I don't want to carry on with. Basically, the ones I don't want to carry on with are the old metal ones. I've got loads of Scarlocks, Wood Elf Archers and Treekin and just odds and sods of like 1980s elves. And then I've got my new pile, which is a load of conversions. And, I decided I didn't like the Wild Riders, the old ones, and that I like the new ones. And the stags are just really nice to paint. And I just thought I'd finish off this Sisters of Thorn unit. So I've still got 2 riders to finish. And then I guess I've got to do the bases. Maybe go with the round one.
Have you got any potpourri left?
Yeah, no, I've sacked off the potpourri as well because that was kind of rotting. I've got a bunch of dryads that still look really good with the potpourri underneath it. They were a bugger actually to paint and glue because I attached loads of like wild stuff to them. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with them. Yeah, and this guy's just what's his name? It's not Slaughter Priest. It's the Dread Knight. No, I don't know what he is.
The Blood Skull Death something.
Exalted Deathbringer. Yeah, I've still got some work to do on the head and horns, but I do like painting flesh quite a lot. So that's come out all right, actually. A little bit of work left to do on it, but yeah, good enough for rock and roll.
Have you considered doing a full series of skin painting tutorials?
Yeah, I need to do some videos. I did make a pre-New Year's resolution to put some videos out, but I just don't know where the last 2 weeks have gone. I really don't.
I think they've probably gone on Total War.
Total War, yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to be actually starting our 2-player campaign this week, but unfortunately I had no voice for the last 10 days.
It's going to happen, Andy. As soon as I can figure out what's wrong with my audio interface, which is why I'm not using a microphone, we can get on that. I've had a couple of practice fun battles on that, and they're very quick. Very quick.
Yeah, we did have a very good battle on it to test out the multiplayer, didn't we?
Yeah, it was epic, wasn't it? I had orcs and goblins, and you had the stouty dwarves.
Yes, it actually looked like you were winning at one point. It was a complete bloodbath, though. I only had 5 iron breakers left at the end, and it was a huge battle.
Who was your hero? He was just...
It was Mr. Belgar Ironhammer.
I couldn't touch him. I did all the kind of this character sniping spells on him.
He had giants hitting him with a club, and you just couldn't crack his armor.
I had the Arachnorat Queen, and she was the most survivable. And I just picked too many weedy units. Like Wolf Riders and Spider Riders against dwarves are just pathetic, especially when they're hammered.
You need to get them in and out is the thing. Once they get into a protracted war of attrition with the dwarves, they're going to get toasted, aren't they? You just got to use them more as an annoyance and then run away when they back up arrives.
Well, I just think your siege weapons compared to mine were just, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Those Doom Divers are funny, though. Do you manually control your Doom Divers?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, that would be cool if you could.
You can actually.
Oh, right.
You can take control of the goblin flying through the air, as far as I know. I haven't actually played as the orcs yet. Yeah,
I haven't played enough as the orcs. I've done a human campaign, grand campaign, and that was wicked. That was tough. And I've just about come to the end of the undead one. I've got to the point where you're going to win, but you're going to go through the motions.
It's difficult to reach that point with the undead sometimes because you're so surrounded by everything.
Wow, what I did, I just I kept myself in. I didn't expand too much. I just kept building up Castle Templehof and Castle Drakenhof.
Yeah, because everyone hates you so much. If you start expanding really far, then you're just going to make them even angrier.
Yeah, there's certain provinces that you shouldn't attack. One of them being Vermouth. Because in the first stages of the game, it's really hard to keep that. You end up being at war with everyone. But the Wood Elves was my favourite one. I really loved that campaign. That was epic. And the dwarves was the first campaign. That was mega as well. Really good. Especially one of the quests that they issue you is to send like a dwarf thane up into the very north and find this long lost dwarven colony.
I don't think I actually achieved that one.
Oh, that was great fun because when you first play the game, you haven't explored the old world map. So you're sending this lone dwarf through the lands of the undead, through Kislev, into the northern wastes to find this long lost, colony, and that was really mystifying. It was great. So
Very
I'm
exciting.
looking forward to the expansions now.
Yeah, there's no end of potential content for them to bring out, is there?
Really?
All the armies they can do.
I don't know if you knew this, but it's actually going to be a trilogy, and what we have is just the first part. So
Essentially, yes. That's what we're led to believe.
So much scope. It could take you to the new world, and it could take you to Nagaroth, and Ulthuan, so you could get high elves and dark elves and sea battles and lizard men, and obviously Skaven, and then ogres, chaos dwarves. Heard rumors of all those factions coming into the game.
The fact that it's been doing so well, and the people that are actually making it aren't on the verge of going out of business or anything, then you would imagine we'll eventually get all the factions. Because an issue I've had with some Games Workshop licensed games in the past is that when they launch with like 3 factions, I'm thinking of Dawn of War 2 for 40k in particular here, that stuck with its launch factions pretty much for its entire lifespan, and it never even got to half of them.
Right.
And then they're going to have Dawn of War 3 now, which is starting again, and they're just going for the races that they already had in Dawn of War 2. So some of them just weren't a feature of that game at all. But you'd imagine with Total War Warhammer, they are going to actually get to everything, because it does seem to be doing well.
They've been so faithful to the Warhammer lore that it's just so very, very, very impressed. It's the game of the decade, I'd say.
It's certainly up there. Okay, I think it's time to wrap this one up, folks. So let's just have a quick look at the old comments. Dreddy is working on a legendary bow in Vermintide at the moment.
Which is also an awesome game.
Yeah, Vermintide, good as well. And they're constantly adding content to that as well.
Yeah, they've just done
nice.
The dwarf expansion, haven't they? We're going to the dwarf realms.
Yes. Let's see. Anything else that we want to read out here? It's apparently the Blight King on a Plague drone. Not the Plague drone. No, not the Blight drone, should I say.
Hooves of Doom says he wants AOS Total War, and I'd say that is more than a decade away, if that's ever going to happen.
I'm not sure if the actual Total War style would fit it. Maybe it would be more of a skirmishy type game, more like Dawn of War than Total War. That's what I would say about that. I don't think it's just the way you play Age of Sigmar isn't the same. So having just big square blocks of troops moving around, it wouldn't feel right, would it?
No. So have you played any more Total War, Andy? Because you did it with the dwarves, didn't you? And you did it with the undead.
I did it with the undead, and I'm currently sampling the different campaigns, seeing which one I want to really push into next. I'm thinking I might try the old Wood Elves.
Yeah. Would you go with Durthu or would you go with Orion?
Well, that's the thing, I'm not sure yet. I need to look into it a bit more, but I've heard people complaining that one of them is way too difficult. So I need to do my research. Which one did you play?
I played Orion on difficult, and you just have to be very patient. But the actual campaign, the separate campaign for the Wood Elves, is really difficult, yeah. You have to be very, very patient and build up the right... Basically, you have to build up the wineries because they're the only things that give you income. And it's very hard to field more than 2 armies because you're going to negative growth. So
that sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. You just got to be...
Sounds like a challenge, at least. Because
Yeah.
when I started off playing as the dwarves, because I'm used to the older Total Wars where you could have just tons of armies running around, and it felt like how am I supposed to defend myself when I can only afford to have like 4 armies defending my entire vast
Yeah.
empire?
And with Shogun 2, there was a time limit. So by a certain year, you have to have occupied, the majority of the Japan map. But you don't have that, so you can be very patient and slowly build up. You don't have to be fighting every turn at all.
And what I came to realise in Total War Warhammer as well is that the garrisons, which weren't part of the old Total Wars, where they're just troops that are permanently settled in that area that you can't remove, that changes a lot as well. So you don't need that many armies just sitting in all of your cities because they already have the built-in garrison.
That's right.
So that keeps them quite defensible.
That's right.
Okay. Are you prepared to sing us out, Mr. Remington? Well, I thank the audience for joining us on this first episode of the new year. Hopefully it's going to be a good year, or at least a good few months for Age of Sigmar. Something for us to sink our teeth into every couple of weeks, at least. Because it has been a bit of a drought over the last few months. Hopefully we won't have to endure that length of drought ever again.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And I don't know if it's too late to vote for the Warhammer YouTubers end of year poll for the award.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the results are out yet, so maybe you can still vote. I'm not sure. And of course, everyone, if you don't already have a copy of Cheeks on your way to you from the Kickstarter, you can order it now in the link in the description. The finest family fun card game out there. And over to you, Mr. Music Man.
What do you get when you cross a bird? A bird with a beast is called a Tzaangor. What do you get when you cross a herd? A herd with a bird, you get a beast bird, and it's called a Tzeentchian Age of Sigmar army. Good night, folks.
Good night and Happy New Year.
Incon.
Pandy Palooza.